Hey, and welcome to another edition of Dan's Models. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
We're doing it different this time for no reason.
Okay.
So this is the old Kodachrome paint scheme of something here. HO scale, should mention that. And so what is it? What are we looking at here?
This is a Southern Pacific GP35R, and it's an HO scale Cato model that I've detailed. And it's done as the 6322 because that was actually its original number in terms of when I bought the model. It said 6322 on it. But it was done in the scarlet and gray scheme. And then I was doing some research because I wanted to upgrade the model because the Cato models run really great, but as they come out of the box, they're not all that detailed really. So, I wanted to do some detailing on it. But then I discovered that the 6322 was one of those that had been painted in the Kodachrome scheme from the merger that never happened with the Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, okay, well, I guess I for some reason I wanted to keep the number on this engine. So I ended up repainting the whole thing and doing a lot of detailing along the way. This one I also replaced. I don't always do this on the Cato GP35s because the Cato cab isn't really that bad, but in this case, because I also replaced the sub base because it has the SP split doors here.
Right.
I replaced. So that's basically all Canon parts in the front: the nose, the cab, and the sub base, and the rest of the shell is basically the Cato shell. I think that the hatch here is this is another Canon part, and the exhaust is a Canon part, and Canon fans. And the handrails are custom made. Those are precision scale stanchions and brass wire that are all soldered together.
Right, we've seen that before.
Yeah, and I did other things like it has photo etch steps on the corners. There is already walkway tread on the Cato shell, so I didn't do that. But lots of other modifications.
Yeah, sounds like it. I thought I saw something flashing when you were talking, and sure enough, there it is. It's the red light in the front and the... So what's the story with these? I noticed there's no ditch lights, but it has two sets of headlights.
Yeah, the red light wouldn't normally be on. I just have it on because I'm showing the model here. I'll turn it off. That's usually... that was supposed to come on if the train went into emergency brake.
Oh, okay.
I think as a warning to other trains. That was one of the SP lights, but the Gyro Light, which is the one up here, would have been used more frequently. That was kind of in place of what they use ditch lights for now, basically, to make it more visible at grade crossings.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, there was a lot of SP traffic where I grew up, and I remember seeing those Gyro Lights.
Yeah. So I modeled the 90s, and by that time, a lot of the SP engines had been stripped of their light packages. However, I found some photos of this one from 1990, and it's still, if the dates on the photo that I had were correct, had its lights at that point. And that was the most recent photo I had when I made this. Now, I subsequently have found another photo which shows it lobotomized, as they call it, with the lights removed.
Plated over?
Yeah, from later in the 90s. But, it's good to have at least a couple engines like this because, one, I like them because it looks like the SP that I remember.
Yeah.
And two, it gives some variety.
It does. And the other thing, though, Dan, is it's cool. I mean, seeing the lights working is a lot cooler, I think, to look at than just having some plated over thing. I understand about, wanting it to be realistic and more like, reality. And if it was plated over, it was plated over. But this just looks cool.
Yeah.
And if you're modeling something, that's your layout, it's your models, you can do what you want.
Right. And I'm not a ultra strict about it. I mean, I kind of try to keep my target time frame around, the early to mid 90s. But, if something falls a couple years out either way, I don't worry about it too much because I'm more going for overall effect than I am absolute historical accuracy.
Right.
So,
right.
I do want the models to be self-consistent so that the model would look like it looked at a certain point in time.
Right.
And it wouldn't be inconsistent with itself. But
Yeah.
if it's off by 6 months from the train next to it, I don't really care, honestly. I'm not that picky about stuff,
Well, I mean, then think about that too. If you're just sitting in a room doing stuff on your own, there's no one there that's going to say, "Oh, that's not right."
Yeah, but also it doesn't look really that out of place. I mean, it would look out of place if you're running like an old steam engine next to an SD70 Ace or something, and it wasn't supposed to be some kind of special excursion,
right?
But if you run an engine that was retired in 1993 next to an engine that the railroad bought in 1994, who cares?
Yeah,
really, it's still going to look plausible. In other words, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So unless you're just one of those real sticklers for that kind of stuff, I don't see the point of going to that extreme.
Yeah. Plus, if it's all made up in your head, maybe it's on its way to the shop to get plated over. Who cares?
Well,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So this is something that I don't remember having seen before. It actually has 4 lights on the back.
Yeah, that's the SP rear light cluster.
Huh.
So there's the headlight is the lowest one, and then the regular gyro light, and then the emergency light.
Yeah, I guess I just never seen it on something this modern.
And the way I had to do this, the regular gyro light and the headlight are done with fiber optics running to LEDs mounted inside the shell.
Right.
Like I usually do. But this one, because this is on a plate up here and it's actually above the level of the shell, I actually had to put one of those little surface mount LEDs inside this casting.
Wow. With tiny, tiny wires?
Yeah, with tiny wires going down into the model. And the other thing I had to do was paint the casting black so that it wouldn't glow through the yellow.
Right.
Wow. That looks really bad.
Yeah, that's like really fine detail.
Yeah, I like the lights to work, even though the red lights weren't actually used very much. I like them all to work. So I did a lot of work, and I did a lot of work to the back end of these, like removing the number boards and sanding them over, sanding over them. And I replaced the Kato's, the GP35s. They came with plastic grab irons, so at least they weren't molded on. But I replaced them with wire ones because I think they look better.
They do look more to scale.
I did save this little part of the handrail in the middle with the drop step on it. That's actually the original Kato part, but I drilled into it on both sides and then used wire, and these are brass parts here on the edges. So kind of sandwiched the original part with, between homemade ends so that the handrail looks better. Because the original Kato handrails on these things are way over scale. They're way too thick. They look like sewer pipes. So
sewer pipes on your trains.
Yeah,
that's not good.
They look terrible. So I don't like those. I also had to I did a lot of work on the pilots of these GP35s because they come with footboard pilots, and by the time I'm modeling, most of that was removed.
Mm-hmm.
So really had to do a lot of surgery on that and sanding and filing to make them more flat, and then restoring the detail that I'd taken away. Also, I had to custom make my own uncoupling levers because they have the brackets mounted on the outer edge, and the ones that they make commercially don't have enough space for that bracket there, so I had to bend my own. Also added all the hoses and all that stuff. And Kato's had a pin that mounts the coupler. It was like a plastic pin that you shove into the chassis.
Okay.
That goes through the hole in the coupler and secures it. But I got rid of that, and I actually drilled a new hole so that I could move the coupler back in toward the model because it sticks out too far.
Oh, I see.
And I moved it back to a better distance, and then had to drill a new hole. And I drilled and tapped it for a 256 screw, and then used a screw in there to secure it. I did that on both ends.
Yeah.
So.
Well, whatever makes it more accurate, right?
Yeah, well, it just looks better, and there's space for it, so I could have the room. I figured might as well.
I'm really surprised that Kato would have had such, prototype discrepancies like that. It's unusual, isn't it?
I think sometimes manufacturers make allowances for the trains going around really sharp curves because they expect people to use them that way, and I don't know. And a lot of manufacturers insist on modeling these diesels with the footboards on them, which I really hate. I wish they would stop that.
Well, those are as built, though, right?
They're as built,
so maybe that's why they're just trying to
but
give you...
I know, but it would be, I don't know. I suppose it's cheaper, but to me it would be better to leave those off and have it as a separate part that could be attached.
Yeah, if someone wants to do it, right?
It's a lot easier to glue something on than it is to have to do surgery to remove it. So I also did some work on this one. Had to custom make this little conduit that runs from this antenna base and kind of across and then down the front of the model. And I also, of course, added the SP-type bell up here and the horn. And it's got, the wipers and all the other usual details that I've put on these things. This model is equipped with a Loc-Sound Select decoder, and it has a speaker back in the radiator section. And I've got the EMD 567 sound set loaded in it right now. They don't have the actual turbo 567 sound set out yet, so I used the non-turbo one, but I really like the way it sounds anyway. One thing I thought I'd mention about the Select decoder that I like is that you can do the headlight both directionally and non-directionally at the same time. And what I mean by that is right now I have it switched on. So I'm going to run the locomotive forward. I have the sound off. But now I'm just putting it into reverse, and as you can see, the front headlight's still on. And that's because I have the headlight actually assigned to two different function keys. If you use it from the 0 key, it's directional. But if you use it from the other key that I assigned, then it's non-directional. So that allows you to, if you want to use the lights in a more prototypical way, you just use the other button. Another thing I did on this one was to fabricate the little step extension at the back here that appears on a lot of SP engines. And I also had to change the handrail because it has like the taller part of the handrail goes back a little farther than it does on a normal GP35. I think because of the little step extension. So,
and is that something that only SP had on their GP35s?
Yeah, I think it's a little toolbox or something. I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of it is, but a lot of their engines, especially the rebuilt engines that they had one of those. So that was something I wanted to reproduce as well. I also used Canon fans for the dynamic brake in the radiator section, and they have recently started to make the smaller fan for the middle, so that's good for people that have GP35s and SD35s and things like that use the small fan.
Well, as usual, a job well done. And I have to admit that usually when you bring out models like this, when we first start, I'm thinking inside my head, oh, look, another Jeep, or oh, look, another whatever it is. But then by the time you're done showing all the modifications and the cool stuff you did to it, I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. So this is another case of that.
Oh, thanks.
So anyway, all right, well, we'll be back next week with another episode of Dan's Models. So we'll see you then.
Yeah, see ya.